All right. So Flo's business advice today. What can I say for entrepreneurs and startups that are trying to get VC funding, right? I sat in a clubhouse today and listened to people pitch, and I also listened to the feedback from venture capitalists. And I think I was talking to another. Yeah, I was. I was talking to another entrepreneur, and I was thinking about how they labeled me at LinkedIn as a serial connector, and how I'm really good at strategy. So I was really, really thinking about all these things, and I can take things, a TV show, a cartoon, or something, and I always see these different connections together. So first advice for startups that are, per se, interested in venture capital. Why Silicon Valley, actually? Yeah, it's really funny, and there's a lot of goofy stuff that's going on, but they really talk about stuff like PIP statements, profit and loss. Um, some of the foundational stuff is pretty dope, and that will really, really help you kind of be beyond the laughter. What it really is like, for pitching to VCs and starting your own startup business. That's one thing on the fun side, just enjoying that, not taking life so seriously. Another thing, out of all the pitches, there was one from my friend Marcus that was really awesome. So another thing that I want to tell you guys, and then I was telling that advice to another entrepreneur as well. This is something that I've been kind of naturally doing for a long time, and I'm a natural teacher as well. But be a master of storytelling. So I think a lot of people, they'll go in there, they sound very technical, they sound very, very like they're reading something, but be a master of storytelling and being enthusiastic. So out of all the pitches today, Marcus was by far the best because he was a master of his story, right? He controlled the story, he controlled the room, and he also had, the proof. So that's number one, be a master of storytelling. Another thing is actually know the business. I think some of the things I would recommend for people just getting started in terms of venture capital, doing what I do, sitting in and listening to what VCs are looking for, listen to other pitches, whether you're pitching or not, and you can kind of see some fundamental things they're looking at. They're looking for like, okay, how much do you think that you're going to be in valuation? How much have you earned already? That's another thing too. Like a lot of times you guys go to investors, right? Venture, and I understand it's hard, right? But you go to investors and stuff, and you haven't earned any money. So the reality is, like, the people that are true VCs and not these per se, unicorn companies like a Twitter or Amazon or these just astronomical stuff. These are business people. So they want to you need to kind of be a master of like fundraising, so they want to make sure that you have a great a business statement, and that you have proven that you're able to get money, because at the end of the day they're just investors, just like you're investing. I work for a pretty large financial institution, right? So they're the same. They're the same people. They're looking at investments. They're looking at things, and they're looking at they just don't gamble. They look at a strategy. So they invest in the founder, but they also want someone with a strong business acumen that has a strong, solid business model. Because the fact is, they have an investment, so they want to make you think about, they want to make a return on their investment. So they really need someone, one of the things they recommend is for most of the founders to get a CFO. So they really want you to be solid with the numbers. So no matter what you do, if you get into business, you better be comfortable getting good with money. So let's think about, like, okay, let's backtrack here. Number one, master of the storytelling, because if you tell a great story, you could just get people giving you money. Number two, have a solid business plan, and think about how you can profitably make a return on investment. And then it's best if you can get revenue or anything that you want beforehand. I think those were kind of some of the major takeaways that I was seeing there. So the people that told a great story, had a great business plan. Oh, and prototype and validate your market, right? So there's another thing I did. I did like a startup cruise ship, right? So you guys really have to test and validate your market. So what I would recommend, even if it's quick, I think that everyone should have a prototype. Like, you should have something even on a technology side, right? So say even if it's something as small as like, okay, what's my most valuable or what's the MVP, right? So say I'm a technology company, then maybe the quickest way is let me do it in React or let me do it in .NET so it's agnostic. Get something out there to the market so I can test and validate. Already have those users and they're already spinning up. And so you could have those tests, you could have that funnel. So those were major things that I was looking at. So same thing with Silicon Valley when they were going to the VCs, and actually for the first one, their first one, they only raised like $200,000 while they're still trying to build a company, but they already had an active prototype. So that really stands out to me. One of my friends personally, right? So Alex Abel, Lunchpool, it did a major pivot, but the same thing. He went to a startup weekend accelerator, and again, they use React Native blue, like had an active prototype already. So those are three things I would say for you in starting. Like, be a master storyteller because you could learn the business, like, period. Test and validate your market, right? And actually have a sales or a solid business revenue model, because the reality is before you go pitch to these VCs, you have a much stronger chance of getting money if you have a profitable business model and you already have like people paying you money, period. So storytelling, number one, period, because I seen that knocked out people because they couldn't tell a story. Really, you need to be able to, Alex said this too, but I say the same thing. I say keep it simple, stupid. He might say keep it where your grandmother or somebody can understand, or where a child understands. If you cannot explain your story or explain your product to the point where a child can get it, then you need to go back to the drawing board. So I looked at it like you might, some of y'all might per se, like some people just have it naturally, but if you know you're not that talking you guys might have to hire like a marketer or someone who's really, really good at storytelling to help you. Because I think about Steve Jobs, watch some of these really dynamic speakers. That's the ringer right in there. Even if you don't have it, not saying go out there without a good business plan, but that was something that I saw the VCs were looking at a lot. Like some of the people even had solid bit, but if their story was dry, they weren't feeling it. So there we go. Recap. Storytelling. Number one, be a master of storytelling. Number two, if you are asking for money, have a solid business plan and also raise money already. Like real shit. Like raise something and that made money already. Number three, if you're not good at money and finance and business, find you someone who does, because at the end of the day, investors are and venture capitalists are business people. Number four, test, prototype, and validate your market. So it doesn't have to be the fanciest thing, but you should not be pitching unless you have like some type of prototype that makes sense that you can test and validate your market. So today, that's Flo's business advice. Peace and love. And this is actually the first clubhouse I went to, but check those out. And like I said, for startup, sometimes it's just a good of being a fly on the wall. A lot of times I'm an observer, and I've been an observer since a child. So I would say this all the time. Like I would watch my brother get the ass whooped, and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. I just do that in general with life. So I look and observe, like, okay, this works. So let me take what works, try that, and I could kind of like cut some of that unnecessary stuff that other people kind of went through, because I'm like, oh, this is the type of stuff they're looking for. So this is not my first pitch competition I went to, but I'm like, these are seriously the themes, right? So like I said, the first one, if you can't get any of them right, the first one, even if you, and like I said, I personally believe that you have a million times to get something right. So don't worry if you blow the first VC or whatever, but I think the most important thing you should do out of all the things that I've said, like I said, is master your story. Master your story. But if you do all those four fundamentals, you'll be pretty damn strong. Peace and love.